I'm not a billionaire overnight. As quick as you can earn it, you can lose it twice as fast.
Alfie Best, son of the billionaire gypsy king of business, he's the traveler turned trailblazer who's made millions from nightclubs and mobile homes.
Through having the name Alfie Best, that has opened a lot of doors for me.
A lot of people watching this will go, nepotism, right? I'm no stranger to those words myself.
It actually adds fuel to my fire. A lot of people from an outside that can't achieve what I've achieved will always sit and point the finger and say he's had it given to him. I wanted a thriving nightclub that people was talking about, and I was going to be the club owner that everybody loved at 16, but it just never worked out. My dreams was a fantasy. I bought my first mobile home park when I was 16. I bought my second one when I was between 18 and 19, and I've just bought my third.
What is it that pushes you?
All of us are all very entrepreneurial. We all enjoy making money. Discipline and confidence will get you as far as you need to go. I think anybody that's got anything more than £500,000 in their bank account is a bad businessman. Money loses money every year due to inflation. It needs to be an asset. When money's earning money for you, that's when you can call yourself wealthy.
I'm Sam Vanderpump, born into a family of entrepreneurs. However, I'm forging my own path, running a foreign exchange brokerage, working with some of the biggest global brands. Each week, I sit down with the power players, innovators, and legacy builders in my network to uncover the bold moves, breakthrough moments, and behind-the-scenes grits that turn big ideas into filthy rich realities. Welcome to Filthy Rich, the podcast where money meets meaning and success leaves a story. Today's guest went from schoolyard sweet deals to selling industrial equipment and owning nightclubs. The son of the so-called gypsy king of the business world, now he's flipping luxury watches, owns property next to Harrods, and building caravan parks just like his billionaire father. He's not just following in those footsteps, he's gunning for his own empire. Welcome to Filthy Rich, Alfie Best.
It's my pleasure, Sam. Thank you for having me on.
We've actually known each other for 16 years.
So it's a great time to catch up.
Definitely. I love this format and a way to catch up. So who is Alfie Best?
An entrepreneur is what I'd like to brand myself as. I've been working from very, very, very young. Always. I was born into an entrepreneurial family, which helps an awful lot in the world of business. And I probably lack academical skill, maths, English. I actually learned to read and write through Facebook. So I couldn't read or write when I come out of school. It was the bare minimum, which obviously doesn't help in the world of business. But as social media come around, I actually taught myself how to read and write. And as you know, we went to a very good school. Cuffley was a great school. It helped me an awful lot. So before I went there, I pretty much knew nothing about maths, English. And in the world of business, I've done a lot better at maths because you have to be. Otherwise, you'll get your fingers burnt very, very, very quickly. And as I was saying before, I started working from a very young age. I used to buy and sell sweets in school. And I actually left school when I was 12. So I'd done 1 year in year 7 and come out of school from buying and selling sweets and bought a van and hired a driver and used to go around industrial estates in East, North, West London, buying and selling industrial equipment like floor mats, blue paper towels, toilet rolls, which taught me an awful lot about business. Was to have the front to walk in somewhere and offer somebody either a service or a product. You get told no more than you get told yes, which makes you become very hard-faced, if that makes sense.
How did you know that you could go out into the world and just trial by error? Was that from your family? What led you to the place where you thought, I can just start selling things to people? I mean, I remember you selling sweets in school. And was it just from that you went, you know what, I can do it at school, I can do it in the real world?
Absolutely. For me, there was no difference between doing it in school and doing it out in the real world. I was just dealing with older people. And it was just confidence, telling yourself you can do it is a great asset. Just telling you, so you're halfway there. By telling yourself, yes, I can do it, you are halfway there, and not letting nothing chip your confidence. What I was doing was propitious and I was earning money, which would give you an awful lot of confidence. I used to work off a law of averages. If I knocked on 10 doors, one's eventually going to open.
And that was from no training, that was just...
No, so I went to work with my dad, when we didn't go to school, like of weekends and school holidays, I'd go to work with my dad, my granddad, and they do a similar sort of thing. And I just learnt from there.
Okay, so you mentioned your dad and your granddad. Are they entrepreneurs too?
Absolutely. So my dad is very wealthy, done very, very well for himself, especially the background he's come from, because he has come from absolutely nothing. I can't actually say that because my dad's obviously a very wealthy man, and my granddad also started from the ground upwards.
Your dad is, you know, a self-proclaimed gypsy to billionaire, am I correct in saying? How do you deal with that kind of background? Does that affect the way you move forward?
It doesn't affect the way I move forward, but it sometimes affects the way people, their perspective of you and how they see you, which can cause problems in business. Being branded as a gypsy, you know, good things don't enter their head at the start, so I have to prove myself, if you like.
So would you say you see it as a disadvantage?
Yes and no, because the disadvantage obviously is their perspective of you, how they see you on the day, and the advantage is the confidence and knowing that I have to come up against that and overcome it in order to get where I want to go.
And did you ever try to escape that past?
For a small period of time, if I could avoid giving away that I was a traveller or a gypsy, I would, because I believe that helped in business. But as I grew as a person, then I embraced it. So when I first started going to work, I would try and not disclose it. If they knew, then maybe I would touch base on it, but if it didn't need to be mentioned, I wouldn't mention it.
And obviously, so your dad is this gypsy king, billionaire. Would you say, you know, how he's come from nothing, from rags to riches, literally, by definition, would you say there was a shadow over you that you had to try and escape?
Not at all. I want to see my dad do a phenomenal, and I'd like to see him do 10 of what he's done already, but wouldn't say following in his footsteps, but it gives my expectations of myself are now a lot higher because I've seen what can be done, and he's been very hard on me. If he could make life very, 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 very easy for me, and what he has given me is connections. You know, he's never passed over businesses. I don't work in the family business. I've had to go on and do it myself. So his business is mobile home parks. I bought my first mobile home park when I was 16. I bought my second one when I was between 18 and 19. And I've just bought my third maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. But I was never included in the family business. Now, I think maybe if I was to push for it, I very well could have been. But it's not the same. I want to be my own man and I want to do my own thing. I want to bring what I earn to the table. And like I say, from seeing what he has done, it just shows what can be achieved. And from his position to achieve it, you know, in a sense, I'm a lot further forward with being his son. And through having the name Alfie Best, that has opened a lot of doors for me, whether being a gypsy, how we've embraced it, I think has helped, where we haven't hid from it.
A lot of people watching this will go, you know, they'll say the words nepotism, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm no stranger to those words myself. And I've always strived to, you know, completely do my own thing outside of my family. How have you dealt with those words, you know, of people saying the only reason you're where you are is because of your father?
It actually adds fuel to my fire. And the way that I look at it, it's easy for somebody from the outside that doesn't know me, which a lot of them don't, because anybody that does know me knows what I've done and what I've achieved and what I've accomplished my own self. Now, I'm further forward than my dad was at my age. My dad didn't buy his first property until he was like 25 or 26. I bought mine when I was 16, but I had the guidance. He had been there and done it, and he was guiding me in the right way. But what other people have got to say, if you was to listen to all of it, you know, it could have a very negative effect on your confidence. And I believe that confidence, for me, with a limited education, confidence is one of my biggest assets. The way I look at it is a lot of people from an outside that can't achieve what I've achieved will always sit and point the finger and say he's had it give to him. And I can understand why they'd look and say that, because if they haven't done it or don't want to do it, then it's very easy to point and say, well, he's there because of, not because of, oh, so he's actually got up and gone to work. When realistically, I don't have to do a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. You could have literally just sat at home, but you've ended up
I'd have a roof over my head. I'd eat. You know, I'd have the bare necessities of life, which is enough for some people, but it's not enough for me.
What is it that pushes you? What is it that's pushed you out there? Is it just something built in internally?
I would say I've inherited that spirit sure, from my dad. I come from a very entrepreneurial background. You know, we've all been very, very, very hard workers. My granddad, even my mum, my sister, all of us are all very entrepreneurial. We all enjoy making money. As you said about the shadow that my dad casts over me, I don't want to be the weak link in the chain. I want this to be a generational thing where we're all a family of entrepreneurs, and I enjoy making money anyway, and you know, why should it stop there? My dad would be very disappointed in me if I was just to stop there and say, we've got money anyway, why should we stop? And realistically, if I'm not getting up and going to work, like, you know, how much good restaurants can you eat in? How many nightclubs can you go to? You know, I enjoy working. I've met plenty of people and enjoy myself working and do good stuff. And like I say, there's a lot of time in the day, and I say weekdays are for working.
You left school early, you started selling trades parts. What did that lead to you next in your journey?
So during this, I used to promote travellers' parties, which would be usually Easter, Valentine's, Christmas, New Year's. And they was pretty successful. And the reason they was pretty successful was because travellers are not welcomed everywhere, especially as a group. So maybe 4 or 5 may be able to get into a place, but when it's 10, 20, 30, and they all like going together as a community. So I used to promote travellers events, and they used to do very well. And following from that, where I used to host the travellers events, the guy wanted to sell the club, and I thought it wasn't working at the time. It was Faces in Hoddesdon, and it was changed to Chelsea's in Hoddesdon, and it wasn't working as a nightclub. So I discussed with my dad, like, I think I could make this work. I've gone from a £40 a day driver, putting diesel in the van, which is still, for a young man, a lot of overhead, £60 or £70 a day, because before I walk out the door, I'm behind, which applies pressure. When I was buying and selling sweets in school, there wasn't any pressure. I had to go to school anyway. It wasn't costing me any money to go to school. You know, if I didn't sell something one day, it was there to sell the next. But if I didn't earn any money while I was out in the van, I'm now behind. Every day that I didn't make £70, I was £70 behind, which was a lot of money for me. I was happy to go out and earn £50, £60, £70 after expenses. But leading from that, even promoting the travellers' parties, I never had no expenses. The expenses was down to the club. So for me to actually take a club on and have the overheads of rent, rates, staff wages...
It's a big risk.
Exactly. And realistically, understanding very, very, very little. There's running a club, and then there's promoting. A promoter turns up with basically zero risk. The only risk that they have is they have an empty club and they don't earn any money. But it doesn't cost them any money. If you're owning the club and then trying to promote it, if you open them doors and nobody stood in there, and I actually had this fantasy, was exactly what it was. Well, I was going to open the door and everybody was going to come running in. I couldn't work out the difference between why he can't fill it up and I could. And for a couple of weekends, I tried running it as a regular nightclub. And as a 16-year-old boy, because that's how old I was at the time, I never had the contacts to fill a nightclub. My age group wasn't going out nightclubbing. And believe it or not, I think clubs was actually probably heading downhill at this time. I think festivals was on their way up, and nightclubs wasn't doing as good. Like even here in the West End, they're not. I don't believe they're doing as good as how I remember them. However, I tried opening it and running it as a regular club, as a regular nightclub for the non-travelling community, because the travelling community don't really want to go out every weekend. They go out on an occasion, as I said, for Valentine's, Easter, Christmas, you know, the big events. They will all meet up because they come from all over the country to all have a link up and a party. And I tried running it as a normal nightclub. The first time I ever opened the doors, the opening night was pretty good. I had family, relatives all come down to support me. And then the following week from that, I was genuinely stood in the nightclub with me, my staff, and the doorman, and that was it. And I was like, right, this is a problem. And my running costs would have probably been £1,000, maybe £2,000 a day, including rent. Now that's from Monday to Sunday, but a nightclub is only active from Friday and Saturday, unless it's a bank holiday weekend or something. And then I had to reassess the situation and work out how I'm going to get this nightclub to earn money. So I put Dappy in there, Fuse ODG to try and fill it, because I was thinking what could pull, like what are other nightclubs doing. Once I actually had an owner of another nightclub contact me, and I was only very young, and he was very, 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 very polite. He said, like, you've copied our flyer. And And I was like, do you know what? I am ever so sorry. Like, I'm just trying to do anything I can to try and fill this nightclub. You know, take it as a compliment that you're doing what's right. Anyway, we changed the flyer, moved on, and then I put another Travellers event on there. And to be honest with you, and I can say this openly, I was actually trying to limit the travellers that was coming in of a weekend, because it wasn't good for the club if I wanted to run it as a normal nightclub. You know, like, you know, non-travellers and travellers do not mix great, to be honest. And now that's me speaking openly. And towards the end of when I owned the club, I put on a Halloween party, and that made the club pay for itself. Like that one night, I managed to revive most of my money that I invested, and I sold the club to somebody else in the end, and I'm sure they done very well at night. Then I bought another nightclub in Romford that was not doing great, and I managed to, and again, when I took this one on, I was wholly and solely, so I was only going to promote it to travellers, because I had now realised that I can't run a normal nightclub, or I can't promote it. I haven't got the pull at 16, or maybe coming into 17 now. I haven't got the pull to run this as a normal nightclub every weekend, Friday and Saturday, or maybe a bank holiday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. So I took it on closer to Christmas. I managed to do a Christmas party, a New Year's Eve party, and a Valentine's party, which all are within 2 months of one another, and that done well. And then I bought a club in London, I think it was just off of Oxford Street, Hanover Square, and that done okay. But the footfall in London compared to anywhere else, like it's a lot easier. I wouldn't say easier, because you still need to promote it, and it still needs to have a good reputation. But you do have a footfall in London. The clubs that I had before was destination venues. Like in London, you could possibly get the overflow of a pub or a bar that's full that they now can't get in, that's looking for an alternative. The clubs I had before was not like that. You either go there because you're going there. There's nowhere else to go really in the area.
What would you say along that journey what was the hardest lesson you learned along that journey?
The hardest experience was standing. It's embarrassing to yourself and the people that you're paying and employing after you spoke about your expectations of what's going to happen. And when you're stood in somewhere by yourself and you're looking around and all this is costing money just to open the doors, like the next week you're thinking, you've still got the rent, you've still got the rates, but if I was to stay closed, I wouldn't have to pay the staff wages, which, between 10 doormen, 5 or 6 bar staff, a floor manager, that could come to £2,500 to £3,000. And, do you open? But I didn't. I made sure I opened every week because, again, pride more than anything, and I wanted to make it work, and I had to learn. A lot of what I've done has always been learning on the job, and that's the best way to learn, because you don't have a choice.
This episode is sponsored by one of my businesses, Vanderpump FX. If you're a business sending or receiving money from abroad, contact us. Most banks and providers overcharge you on the exchange rates. At Vanderpump FX, we can help businesses and individuals like you save on every transaction, with savings up to 5% compared to most banks. We make sure your money stays where it belongs, in your pockets, not the bank's. So what happened after the nightclubs? How did that lead you into where you are today?
I wouldn't say I made a successful nightclub, but I made it profitable, which was the end goal. At the beginning, that wasn't the goal, because I wanted a thriving nightclub that people was talking about, and I was going to be the club owner that everybody loved at 16, but it just never worked out. My dreams was a fantasy that quite never worked, which, that fantasy maybe was the fire, what got me going, but I made it proficient and I made it profitable. So I soon realised that it's a very volatile business, and you can earn a lot of money, but you can also lose an awful lot of money. And it wasn't really an industry that the idea of owning a nightclub 10 times outweighs actually owning it and doing it. Everybody sees the bright lights, the DJs, everybody coming in and all the attention that they may seem to get, but they don't see from Monday to Friday when you're in there maybe mopping it up, doing stock checks, seeing that bottles have potentially gone missing, checking bars, going over numbers because somebody could have potentially took something out of the till. They don't see all of this, and that's where some of the problems arise. Filling the nightclub is a quarter of what needs to happen. So following from that, we then sat and discussed. I earned enough money to put down a deposit on a mobile home park with a mortgage, and then I followed on from property from there.
And did you sort of look at your dad at this instant and go, okay, you've built an empire on these mobile home parks. I'm not going to follow you into business, but I'm going to learn from your experience.
My dad's greatest advice ever to me, which I would pass on to my son and to anybody if they were to ask me for business advice. Why would I want to venture into any other business other than something that my dad has lived and breathed and understands the insides and outsides of? Why do I want to start from scratch? I'm basically starting, I wouldn't say from the top, but a lot further forward than he did when he started. We understand the industry back to front. If I need any advice, I can go to him. Like I say, he doesn't necessarily give me money, but the advice that he can give me under those circumstances are worth more than any money he could ever give me. And listen, a lot of people have broke the mould and gone out and learnt their own thing, and fair play to them. But as for someone that's a little bit stuck and don't really know what to do or where to go, if you're doing something you're halfway there. You know, learning a job and understanding an industry is a job in itself, and you're doing a lot of that whilst not making any money. So why not give yourself a head start?
So obviously this is the advice to people who are fortunate enough to be in a situation where they have had a job. What would you say to the people who are, got nothing? What would your advice be to them?
My advice would be motivation comes and goes. Discipline and confidence will get you as far as you need to go. Discipline and confidence. Listen, motivation, you can wake up one morning, you can be extremely motivated and ready to go. You can wake up the next morning under the same circumstances and think, I can't be bothered with this today. I've got other things I'd rather go and do. My friends are going out. But if you've got the discipline to get your head down and think, no, I'm going to go and try and make this work today, and do that every day, repetition after repetition, it's going to work. Because if you're disciplined enough to keep going and keep trying, the reason why triers succeed is because, let's say something doesn't go right today. Tomorrow, you're going off the back of experience. Oh, right, well, I tried that yesterday. That didn't work. Right, let me try this a different way. Doesn't work. You go again the next day. Now you've found all the flaws in the business of what ain't working. You've tried one thing and then it's worked. And then it's clicked. That's why I believe discipline and repetition and persistence. And like I say, motivation something we can't make. It's a natural thing. It's like being sad or being happy. Now we can do a lot of things either to prevent a lot of things to enable it or help ourselves become motivated. We can watch motivational videos. We can go and look and motivate ourselves by looking at cars or things we want. Motivation is something that's natural. It's not something we can just produce, but discipline is.
Yeah.
We can make ourselves get up and go to work every day. We can, but we can't be motivated every day doing it. Some days we can, which that's a blessing. Some days we might not be. But on the days that you're not, they're the days what I believe will make or break somebody.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with what you are saying. But I guess what probably a lot of people will ask is, how much money can, mobile home parks actually make you? And I mean, your dad is claiming, says, the evidence behind that is billions. Mm-hmm. But how do mobile home parks make you billions? How does that happen?
So the first one that I bought was in Craze Hill in Essex, and it's not a quick fix to make millions. And there's plenty of stuff that I do on the sides, like I buy and sell watches. It's not that I just bought a mobile home park and become rich overnight. They can also cost you an awful lot of money. There's so much, again, that you do not see, like the development. So you have to invest before you can expect to get any money from the mobile home park. To be honest, it's very minimal at the start. We get a very, very, very small pitch fee, which would be the same as any plot of land, which is residential. For example, if we used to own 10 houses, we'd probably only get the same amount in ground rent, but we have to maintain the park. That's the deal between the resident and the park owner. So whether that may be tarmacking the roads, maybe putting fences up, the boundaries of the mobile home park. The resident owns whatever's above the land, and we deal with whatever's below the plot. So that may be gas, electric, all to connect to the home. And we get a small amount of profit, which isn't a great deal. Like now, a new mobile home, say a 40-foot by 20-foot mobile home, would cost us probably about £150,000. Time we put the time and effort and tradesmen in to put a new concrete base down, time we get water, gas and electric fitted, get a home transported there, which would cost between £5,000 and £6,000. So before you get it put down, it costs maybe 120 or 130, and then we had a small profit of maybe sell it for 150 or 160, and then we collect our ground rent all year round. Like, it's not a get rich quick scheme by any means.
So you're not telling us all here today to go buy a mobile home park and we'll all be billionaires overnight?
Well, I'm not a billionaire overnight, and I've done it for the last 10 years. However, I am growing very slowly. You know, I've gone from one mobile home park to 2 mobile home parks. Now I've got 3 and have a couple of properties in London and surrounding London.
So what you're saying is the numbers that are thrown around online, the billions here, there, and just from mobile home parks, you have to take it with a pinch of salt, I guess.
Absolutely. It's the same as anything. Everything looks good and easy when somebody's made it to the top.
Yeah.
They wasn't saying that when they've seen me in a pair of Wellington boots with concrete up to my knees and the concrete dripping into me Wellington boots, trying to put a concrete base in because I haven't left enough profit in the sow for me to pay someone to go there and do it, and I've had to get my own hands dirty. And the same would go for my dad. There's pictures spiralling me around the internet, laying my own concrete bases.
Do you still feel fear?
As quick as you can earn it, you can lose it twice as fast. Anything can happen, and I work like I've got nothing. And it's always how much you can build and how far you can go, but you always must bear in mind that we never know what's coming around the corner. You can never plan too far ahead, and with that mentality, that keeps you sharp. I believe if you was to have no fear, you wouldn't be sharp. And in the world of business, there are so many dogs and so many people that's looking to take your money off you. Now, that's the problem with a lot of new entrepreneurs that are starting businesses. The people that have been in business, like for example, somebody that does Google ads, which is a good example because everybody needs advertising, right? The new person that's just started believes, oh, this guy's doing Google ads for me, I'm going to get money from it straight away. The person that's doing the Google ads is like, I'm going to try and take as much money off of this guy as I possibly can because he's not experienced and he doesn't know. So I believe the minute that you lose that sharpness, people try and take advantage of you, and the quicker you can learn the rules of life that people are out there. And again, I believe trust should be earned because, you know, people you've known for 2, 3 and 4 and 5 years, you never know what situation they're going to be in before. They can't be trusted. And I think you should take it as a compliment for me to say no. And the same goes with me and my friends. You know, make me earn my trust because there's so many people out there. I was watching a podcast of Chris Eubanks Sr. on another podcast, and, you know, he seems like he's a little bit loose and a mad guy, to be honest. He's done exceptionally well at boxing. And he sat down and he said, I had advantage took off me because I never had time to learn the rules. And that's why a lot of footballers and boxers and sports personalities, they come from sports and then end up with nothing. They get paid so much money and they don't know what to do with it. And the money seems like it's going to be coming forever. And then the minute they retire, they go for every single penny, and their whole life people have just tried to take it off of them. So that's why I like to try and stay sharp and see, listen, what I've got today could all be gone tomorrow.
I mean, so let's say worst case scenario happened, you lost it all tomorrow. How would you rebuild?
I'm a good salesman and a very good trader. You know, it's a very simple concept. You buy for less than what you sell it for, which is very easy and straightforward. And that's where I would have to go, regardless what that would be. I'd have to get into some sort of industry which didn't take a lot of initial investment, because if I've got nothing, then I have to start with something maybe I can get on sale or return, or go and work off commission selling somebody else's product from elsewhere. I don't really know where I'd go, but what I would be going into is whatever I'd be going into, I'd be going in with a lot more knowledge than when I did start, so I would know I would get back to where I am probably in half the time.
I think you could say, happily, you've got fuck you money, right? You could pretty much go out tomorrow and say, fuck you, I want it.
Possibly from the outside, but internally, I don't see it like that. All of my money's tied up in assets. It's all out earning money. What I've got, think of my money like an ice cube.
Yeah.
All the time it's frozen. I can't, it's not liquid to go and do whatever I want. And the thing is, I've worked so hard to get it, to go and give, for example, £300,000 for a car, or watches I understand a little bit better and they hold their value a little bit better. But just to go and give it away like that, it's not what I know.
You say that, but you've got a garage filled with cars, watches, so you do have all of it.
But all of these things are purchased for a profile, and they are bought always within reason of, they're bought, I wouldn't say cheap, but under the market value to be able to get out of them whenever we need to.
Okay.
Very rarely would I go to a garage and just go and blow 50 or 60 or however much the car may be, or whatever the depreciation cost may be. It's never actually purchased as enjoyment. Everything's always monitored. For example, if I was to buy a car today, ever since I am starting to drive it or I have it parked up on the drive, I am monitoring the market to make sure I don't lose too much money. For me, that's not enjoyment.
I watched a podcast with Mr. Beast the other day, and, again, he is a billionaire through assets, potentially. And he says he's got less than, I think, £1 million in his bank account. Would you say, writing an actual check, he couldn't write it for more than £1 million? Would you say that's a similar situation for you? Would you say you're that tied up, you're that invested?
Unless you're saving to buy something, I think anybody that's got anything more than £500,000 in their bank account is a bad businessman at my level. Now, if you've got £1 billion company that's bringing in £1 million or £2 million a month, then that's a different story. But from where I'm from, money loses money every year due to inflation. For me, it needs to be in assets. It needs to be in property. Property is the only business I know where your money is 85% safe, should I say. Because the good thing about property is it's always earning money. When money's earning money for you, that's when I believe you can call yourself wealthy. A lot of people look, they need to have 2 million or 3 million in the bank, or they need to own this or they need to own that. No, money needs to be working for you. And I think wealth is more of freedom to be able to go and do what you want, which I do have. But I choose to go to work and I choose to try and I love networking. I love playing golf. I love meeting new people, all for business purposes. And I believe all of our friends that we surround ourselves with should have similar mentalities, and we should all be able to help each other.
One thing I'm going to ask you before you leave, do you think anyone can become rich?
I do believe anyone that can become rich. And again, with the advice that I have given, what you need is confidence, discipline. Motivation comes and goes, so confidence, discipline and persistence. And if you're persistent, I think with those three attributes, I think you can become rich, yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on here, speaking really honestly, and let me, dive into your life and ask you some, quite cool questions, and really giving my audience an insight into your world as well.
Absolutely, pleasure's all mine.
Thanks for watching Filthy Rich with me, Sam Vanderpump. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more episodes and exclusive content. For this podcast, search Vanderpod on all major audio streaming platforms. See you soon.